Hey, what's up? Welcome back, Walking and Talking, episode 35. We're here. It's a Monday. Sorry that I have not gotten the video up from Friday yet. The SD card got corrupted. All you who use SD cards fairly regularly will know the pain. I'm trying to recover it for the third time right now. Hopefully all goes to plan and I can edit something together and put something out from Friday. But if I don't, thank you all for joining me. Welcome back. We're here. It's Monday. We're in Mount Loretto State Park. And today we're gonna talk about history. I just started reading a book by, I believe his name is Robert Rhodes, but it is, oh God, I'm gonna blank on how I believe it's How to Build an Atomic Bomb. But it's the whole history of the Manhattan Project and how, both from a science perspective, a political perspective, and a cultural perspective, how the atomic bomb came to be. And apparently this is a book that a lot of presidential White Houses read. This is a book scholars have studied. This is a great, thoroughly researched representation of how the Manhattan Project, which created the first atomic bomb, Fat Man and the Little Boy, it's how they came to be. And so it's a very interesting tale. It is, by all accounts, extremely accurate and well done. But this brings us to our topic, which is, I want to talk about my favorite periods in history. This can be both an event or a moment or like a time period. And so my favorite periods in history, here's my 5. First, obviously, with where we started, the Manhattan Project. The development of the first atomic bomb is one of the most fascinating moments in human history for me. Just the manpower, the dedication, the patriotism, the science, all of this coming together, ooh, that was rough, to create one of the most iconic, also one of the most destructive weapons ever conceived by man. And so the history behind it is obviously quite fascinating, and it's just really interesting. From the letter that they sent to President, man, this is gonna be a rough one. From the presidents they sent to okay. From the letters they sent to President Eisenhower to the actual start of production in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and in the eventually the spot up in Washington State. Did it! It's a fascinating period in history. Next, let's stay in World War II. This one is going to be D-Day, Operation Overlord. And also Operation Mincemeat, which I never knew about until recently, which is also freaking fascinating. This whole moment in time where the Allies are building up their forces on the British, or in England, ready to mount their attack, ready to break through the German defenses and start retaking continental Europe, and all of the misdirection and just spy games that are being played at that moment are insane. Everything from the Enigma machine to Churchill in his war room, so fascinating. And I'm so excited I got to go visit Churchill's war room when we were over in London in March of this year. That was super cool, getting to see where a lot of this stuff went down. Next, let's go back to the nuclear age. Let's talk about Chernobyl. Very relevant because of the recent series on HBO, which by all accounts is extremely good. And now that Game of Thrones is over, I will begin to indulge in. We're walking down an extremely muddy path, so sorry if I'm distracted momentarily. The destruction, the mismanagement, the straight up lying to the public when Chernobyl went tits up was incredibly fascinating. The fact that the Scandinavians were the first to notice the elevated radiation levels and call Russia out and say, hey, shit's going down, and half the people in positions of power had no idea that a disaster of this magnitude had happened at Chernobyl. So while tragic, it is fascinating for all elements of the situation, from the political aspects to the social, especially in Russia, and then the fallout. Because a lot of the reason people in general now don't trust nuclear as a form of energy production, which is kind of a shame because it is a pretty good carbon neutral or low emission way to make a shootload of energy. Trying to keep my language down a little bit this time. Ow. But yeah, so Chernobyl, number 3. Number 4 is I'm gonna say it's kind of 2 things. First is Gettysburg, the famous battle here in the US during our Civil War, where the North and South clashed in Virginia. In, I think it's one of the bloodiest battles on American soil, I believe is the best description of it. It is crazy. And also, when you pull back away from just the battle, some of the stuff that was going on around the battle, where armies were positioned, where generals were moving their armies, all of this stuff was incredibly interesting and really led to the eventual result, which was, I guess, technically a north win, but it was a rough win. But either way, Gettysburg, number 4. And also part of number 4 I'm rolling in there is the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, because that is a fascinating, specifically it's fascinating post-assassination, because on more than one occasion people tried to steal Lincoln's body. There's even, I believe, a train robbery that was thwarted that was trying to steal Lincoln's body. Also, he was exhumed a lot of times, I think like 6 or 7 times, to verify that it was him, because there was a constant string of attempts to steal his body. Ridiculous. Alright, sorry for the quick interruption there. My phone started playing music for whatever reason, whatever. But we're back, and last on this list is going to be the Cuban Missile Crisis. Yes, 3 out of the 5 have been around nuclear weapons, which kind of is a theme. Like, it's a really fascinating subject for me. But the Cuban Missile Crisis is incredibly interesting. From the negotiations, the brinksmanship, the way the situation was handled, the way the situation was communicated to the public, all of it is extremely fascinating. Especially in a time like we are right now, where there's an outside chance this could happen again. With the current shenanigans going on. All of these periods in time are super fascinating to me, and I've spent a lot of time researching, reading, watching, listening to content around it, and I can't get enough. I think I'm going to come back to this topic again, especially with Chernobyl, because I'm going to start watching that series, and I want to give my kind of thoughts on it as an enthusiast of that time period. I'm also kind of curious to talk to my wife, who is not as knowledgeable about Chernobyl, and see what she thinks of the television show, and maybe excuse me, I will share some of her opinions here when we revisit the subject. So with that, hopefully my video with top 5 favorite bourbons that I filmed right after going to see John Wick Chapter 3 made it in here. If not, I'm sorry, I lost a video. It's the first, hopefully it's the last, but we'll see. Thank you all for joining me. This has been Walking and Talking. Like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, check out my whiskey reviews. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. This has been Walking and Talking. Peace. Bye.